We'll
Should have
finish
been here during the break. We had all this. I got a bad cough tonight. I don't know why it comes and goes. We're talking compliance, and we're talking churning, or you said 3% turnover. Are you talking about 3% fee, or are you talking about 3%
No, I think
of
in
the
excessive. I
portfolio
think
turns
what
over?
I guess the question becomes is has excessive commissions been charged to your account? Has there been promotion of excessive trading for your account? That there may be very legitimate reasons that if you're a type of person who is an active trader, but you want to work with an advisor, and there may very well may be legitimate. There are many cases over the years where there was excessive amount of
Well,
transactions.
nine pages of transactions
Yeah.
for a $200,000 account
Sure.
doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I've had, various issues. I mean, I used to be when I was branch manager in Alberta for years. I had to go in, and I was one of the cleanup guys. As a manager, I was a start-up and fix-it guy. So I had to go in after the 1987 crash to a large branch in Alberta, and I had 45 brokers on the floor, and I spent 2 years basically firing brokers, doing investigations. Came under investigation as the supervisor. Spent 2 days with two IDA, Investment Dealer Association investigative guys, and this is an interesting story from a compliance. Probably one of the interesting parts of my career was 1988, and I had a broker who had fired. And what it was, and I just moved to this particular branch. And I had a lady call up and said, well, we had a margin call, wasn't it, for $50,000 or something like that. And I look at this, and I bring up the file, and I see that this particular account had $300,000 of value, and it had vested in strip coupon bonds, 30 years of maturity. Okay, like a 30-year dated
Yep.
option. They were margined. And margin means there was money borrowed against this position to buy
Money
to
borrowed to
double
buy
the
them,
position.
yeah.
And a 30-year strip coupon bond is like a 30-year option on interest rates,
Yep.
with no cash flow in between. Highly risky because of the 30-year maturity nature and no cash
A
flow.
little speculative. Yeah.
Ultra speculative. So I pull the file out, and I see it's a 72-year-old couple. So I phone up the couple. I'm the manager. I'm the branch manager, and I'm investigating the actions of the broker. And I phone up the couple, and I said, would you come into the office, please? Do you realize you owe us $50,000 or $60,000? And they said, oh, we do. And I said, well, obviously, you better come in and talk to me. So they did, and they came in and they said, oh, Mr. Walkow. I said, so I have their file, and I'm talking to them. They're the nicest couple. And I said, do you understand you owe us $60,000 on your margin account? We do. Our broker Mr. B never told us that. And I said, well, do you understand what you own? He said, well, yes, Canada Savings Bonds. And well, these were Government of Canada
understand,
strip
yeah.
coupon bonds. On their statement, it said Government of Canada,
Yeah.
but they were strip coupon bonds. They weren't Canada Savings Bonds. So I had a margin agreement there, which is signed by them. And I said, do you understand what you signed? This is an agreement to borrow money from us and to buy these investments. Oh, well, no, we didn't. Mr. B just said sign here, so we did. And so I phoned our compliance officer in Toronto, and he said, write the check. I just said, write the check. So I basically cut a counter check for something I think the actual check was for $185,000. And I just had the cage write up the check. I said, here's some money you've lost. Here's all your original investment back, plus interest, and we reversed any charges made to you. Thank you very much. And I fired the broker.
Yeah.
They phoned me the next day. Thank you for the money. But we're extremely unhappy that you fired that broker. Don't you know what a gentleman he is? And what a, tough guy you are because you fired him. And I said, but Mr. and Mrs. Jones, he defrauded you. you know, we've made good on this. I mean, you have been defrauded. He was, yes, he was a good salesman and so forth, but you know,
He wasn't acting in your best
he
interest.
was not acting in your best interest, and certainly wasn't representing our firm
The way he
in
should
the
have
way
been.
he should have been. But when you fire somebody in that business, you trigger an automatic investigation. 2 months later, I get called into the boardroom, and these investigators come from the Investment Dealers Association. And bearing in mind, I'd only been in the branch for 3 months,
Yeah.
so I'm just discovering where all the rotten
You don't
eggs
know
are.
where
right?
all you don't know where all the eggs are.
And so these two fellows show up, and we have a nice big swanky boardroom, and they bring in these two big suitcases with these directional mics, and there's 3 of them set up.
Yep.
So there's 2 guys on the other side of me, and they start, and they have their recording devices on, and I knew it was going to be a long day when they said, "In what year were you born, Mr. Walkow?" I spent a whole day, that was the initial day, and what they were doing at that time was, in the 87 crash, as we found out later, was that they were looking for issues at the supervisory level of failure to supervise.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the guy under investigation as the supervisor. This was just an excuse, a trigger excuse to test
Yeah.
the supervisory things. So and how I investigated the issue, what I found, how I did it, procedures I'd go through, or any branch manager would do to surveil the brokers that worked with him, and this, that, and the other thing. So when we take that fast forward that 22 years to today, or this year, and my sense of it is that compliance regulations have gotten tighter.
No, very much so.
Super branch managers and supervisors are much more vigilant. Therefore, securities infractions, I think, generally speaking, are less, and certainly less flagrant. I mean, there are some out there. There's always abuses, and there's just like any profession, there's
But I'm seeing
bad
more.
guys.
I am seeing more right now than I usually see.
Is that right?
Because the market's down, and my people are all from out of town.
Right.
So everybody's dealing with the guy back in Regina, the guy back in Ontario, the guy back in whatever. They got the fellow back in Wasaga, Michigan, or something or other, and he's living here.
Yeah.
And they're all dealing it over distance. There's nothing wrong with distance, because we can deal with distance
No, it's
immediately
not an
today.
issue.
But they're all dealing with jurisdictional issues that don't seem. And I tell 2 people a week to go and see you,
Yeah.
and maybe 1 a month shows up,
Yeah.
because they don't want to change. Or what they've been thinking of, I've decided this, that they've had a choice. They've already been thinking about somebody and somebody. And when I say that, yeah, that somebody's no good, they go to the next person that they were thinking about.
Right.
It's already in their mind. It's the way our mindset
Yeah.
goes.
You know, one of the things that I
'Cause-
think has always been true, David, over the years, certainly in my almost 30 years in the business, is it's a relationship business.
It is.
You know, and it's not necessarily a rational. It's like many investors. It's not necessarily a rational decision.
Well,
It's an emotional decision.
it is. And when they come to see me, they want my opinion about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And when I say that what they're doing is not right, then they go to their second choice.
Right.
It doesn't matter that they make their choice because of what I've said. What blows my mind, it does, is that I've been doing this for 46 years. I have been
Yeah.
licensed. I've
Yeah.
written the securities test. I've had a mutual fund, life insurance, general license, real estate licenses. I've had all the licenses. They come and they pay me big money to tell them what to do, tell them what not to do,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't do what I tell them to do.
Follow through.
Does that
Yeah.
make
No,
sense?
that makes perfect sense. I mean, the question I always get when we transfer out, and this is true with the firm I currently have now, and for a good part of my career over the last I've built branches, hired many brokers and helped build businesses in a variety of locations across the country.